Welcome back to the NAL with our second game of today. OXG going up against Cruelty. We've seen what both of these rosters are capable of yesterday, and we're looking for some consistency today, but also for Cruelty to be able to prove themselves. Because, you know, we've just seen Envy, they're taking Shopify all the way to OT, so maybe Cruelty can learn a little bit from that and like sprinkle it in and go up against OXG.
As I said, that's what I want to see. I want to see all these teams that we weren't giving much credit to yesterday, to see them come in, what they learned from yesterday and apply it in today and look like a night and day difference in terms of overall results and performance.
And I think we'll get to see that in this game because both teams are in a learning period. Cruelty is learning the league. OXG is learning how to play with each other, essentially, because they're a brand new team from so many different play styles.
I thought that was going to be the end of your sentence where you're like, they're learning how to play.
Yeah, well, yes.
So in some aspects, for sure.
They're learning. They're figuring it out. Both teams.
Both teams, right? But let's have a look at the OXG roster specifically because, you know, coming in yesterday, we were like, okay, how is this going to work? Different identities. Are they going to mesh together? Different systems? And I mean, they did show up.
Yeah, I mean, they did. I think it's still a little bit of an identity crisis, to say the least. But, I mean, they still kept their foot in the door. They still kept their hands in the fight. And realistically, I can see this team making it work over time, but it's just a matter of time, realistically.
Absolutely, man. Right now, if we address it in three simple ways, the bad is the fact that there's too many synergies, too many different cooks in the kitchen, if you will. They just need to be able to get under one ideology. The good about it is their resilience that we saw from yesterday was a huge improvement to OXG's lack of mentality in previous rosters, and also Forrest coming in to be able to help IGL with Gomez alongside. It's definitely been a huge improvement. Now, the simple fix is just to sync it all up under one mentality, and like you said, Gabe, it takes time to do that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't just come down to the players. My biggest factor is going to be looking at the coaches specifically, because that's one aspect of OXG that we haven't really changed much. Yes, they have added 2 coaches as Kizi and Fino from SI, which they went on that top 8 SI run, and we saw some huge improvement. But since then, it hasn't been there. And as you can see, my friend, Redeem, he's been there since the start, since me and Lax were on the team, and there hasn't really been.
By now.
Yeah, he might be bald by now, but there hasn't been that much change when it comes to the coaching, visually seeing it in the players. So we really need to be able to see the coaches impact this roster on figuring out what the identity is. That being said, if we have another year of OXG not finding success, instead of fully swapping out big players every single stage, we're going to have to look inwards and figure out something else going forward, because so far, every single rendition of OXG has been flopping a little bit.
Wow, calling out the coaches.
Okay, let's keep it real here. Keeping it a bang a buck, but let's do the same thing then for Cruelty, because, I mean, coming in here, we said, okay, Cruelty, they've earned their spot. They got the tier 2. They're in the tier 1. They've proven us kind of back then what they're capable of. Then yesterday, that was just not the case.
Yeah, they definitely earned their spot to be playing here. As of yesterday, I mean, we did talk about they did look good on their attacks. They ended that half 3-3, but then immediately folded on their defensive side, which realistically, that came off the backing of a lot of inconsistencies. And not only inconsistencies, they were cutting a lot of corners. And if I can remember back in the days, even when I scrimmed these guys, that is something that I noticed more so than anything. Instead of playing a fluent play style of Siege, they were cutting corners to get to the end goal. And we saw that being displayed through and throughout that match versus SSG, especially in a round where Fultz ends up getting a 4K. I mean, I think that completely showed where I'm talking about in terms of cutting corners, because when we talk about team play, when we talk about coordination, when we talk about communication, everything could have been here and displayed and shown, and that's exactly the exact opposite from what we saw. They knew Fultz was down here by himself. They easily could have worked together, had that coordination, had that communication, but they instead choose to go 1-for-1, take each engagement by themselves, where it started off as a 5v5, ended off in a 1v4, and just with a little more communication, a little more coordination, a little utility even being used, that easily then could have been a more favorable round for them. But because they're cutting corners, that's the end result.
Even that BB pick at the end there was like a crazy like, why would you unshield in front of somebody's face as Blackbeard? But that really comes down to, in my opinion, what we were talking about yesterday, when it comes to the overconfidence and the ego that Cruelty has coming into the NAL.
Yeah, it's maybe something that they're going to have to work on today, but I feel like SSG is a little bit of a different beast than OXG, because we've also seen OXG struggle a little. So yes, SSG might have been able to punish them, but it's up to OXG to do the same thing today. It's going to have to start off all with the map pick and ban, because where would they want to go?
I mean, for me, the map ban really is kind of irrelevant for both these teams because I think they're still both trying to find their stride here. And especially when I'm talking about Cruelty not cutting corners, not doing the defaults, this is exactly a map that I think makes the most sense for both these teams. They don't have to work too hard. You can play your defaults. You're just playing into the attacks. The attacks are the biggest thing for this map, and that's exactly what I'm talking about with Cruelty cutting corners. Where we saw them going against SSG, they were cutting those corners. They did make it a 3-3 half, but now playing Clubhouse, you are playing the most default game of Siege that you possibly can. So if your fundamentals aren't here, you are a lot further behind than the rest.
Absolutely. I'd say both teams are in similar boats, and they have a little bit of issues connecting to each other as teams. So what I would love to see in this matchup specifically is one team rise above the other by making sure that they are focusing on all fronts just to be able to connect, focus on trades, and look like the outright better team.
So this feels like a pretty equal matchup,
I'd
so to say, which
Yeah.
makes maybe predictions a little bit more complicated.
No.
No.
Nah, I mean, I still just got to go with Oxygen just for the simple fact is everyone on that roster individually is a performer, where I can't say that just yet about Cruelty.
Yeah, absolutely same thing. When it comes to OXG, the players are way more proven. You got to give them the edge always, and they're amazing individuals. So against a team that also has similar struggles, OXG is going to win it every time. I expect more from OXG, and I hope they are able to achieve it.
Well, we're going to find out whether or not they're able to achieve it and live up to some of these expectations, because we are also ready to head into Clubhouse, our second game of today here with OXG against Cruelty, with our casters, Jesse and Intero.
Oh, thank you so very much, Gennaro. Greatly appreciated. Both of these teams are currently towards the bottom of the standings. Jesse, OXG sitting tied for 7th place. Team Cruelty sitting in 9th place. Now, the expectations obviously are very different for these squads. Oxygen is an organization that has been around a while. They've gone through numerous identity changes, both in terms of their logo, but also their roster. Team Cruelty is relatively new to people who didn't tune in to the Latin America League from seasons past. This org of Team Cruelty and the team itself have been around for quite a while, but now they're playing at the tier 1 of a bigger region. And yesterday, they only mustered 3 rounds, which is 1 less than OXG got, as they only got 4 rounds. What's your expectation between these squads as we load into Clubhouse?
Yeah, I mean, Oxygen will be the favorites in this matchup. Of course, Team Cruelty had some decent moments the other day, but fundamentally looked really inconsistent in their rounds. You know, they would have one round where they put together like a really nice attack and they had a solid plan to their push and it all came together the way they wanted. In the next round, they would swap to defense and have 3 runouts, which all got punished. So for Cruelty, you're looking for some consistency, I think, in their game plans. Didn't have exactly the match they wanted up against SSG. For Oxygen as well, I think just finding their footing as a new roster, it's always going to be difficult at the start of the season, and this should be bit of an easier match for them to find that that footing underneath them. So I'm hoping we can see that out of them. As far as operator bans go, a little surprising to see Bandit making through the ban phase. Kaid Bandit was by far the most common opening bans for defenders in Reload, but of course with Clash coming in, those stats are going to change, and Clash is very powerful, so you always want to take that off the board if you can. And then for Oxygen, their choices were either Hard Breachers or Shields. They opted for Shields.
In their matchup yesterday, Team Cruelty had to deal with Space Station spawn peeking them pretty much every single round. Adam spawn peeking as well. Doesn't find anything for it, but the lack of respect immediately being paid by OXG is eerily similar to what Space Station did yesterday. And I mean, it's not even so much about respect, Jesse. It's just about if you think a team is not capable of matching your aggression, and you're going to do some serious damage to them in the first 10 seconds of the round, why not do that if there's very little risk for you?
For sure, and I think also for for one of these holds, right, where you're going for a defensive strat, you're going to play 5 guys in the anchor, you're not looking to get into early gunfights. If you show a bit of that pressure early, if you get in their heads, it's going to slow them down on this roam clear. There's nobody to find on the top 2 floors. The closest will be Gomez, who was playing kind of near those main stairs, but even he's retreated at this point. So really, if you can get in their heads a little bit, make them a little nervous, make them think you're playing more aggressive than you actually are, that has a lot of value just beyond who they're facing in Team Cruelty. So don't mind it one bit from OXG. Cruelty will be hoping to put together one of their good-looking attacks. Again, I think they had a couple of those yesterday against SSG. They had a couple of rough ones too. They've at the moment got good bit of soft breach in terms of Pyrox on the Buck. They've got Matumbo on that Blackbeard. OXG choosing to ban out the 2 traditional shields in Monty and Blitz. So Blackbeard left up. Nice impact trick coming out from Grixer down below. Cleared all 4x Kairos with the new Hibana. I say new, it's been a couple years. They should be able to get this hatch open at some point. 2 pellets going off means they only need 2 more to open this, but it's that time waste that will continue to hinder Team Cruelty. The clock will keep on ticking down, as they will probably be aiming for an execute around 45 or 30 seconds, and it's almost guaranteed to be all 5 alive.
I mean, you've got some pretty heavy work to deal with Clubhouse and effectively droning it out and roaming. Droning out all the roamers. I mean, usually it takes about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to full clear this map, and that's if all 5 players are sitting inside the bomb site, which is pretty much the case at the moment for OXG. Very standard turtle setup. Clubhouse is one of the 5 maps that saw some changes. With CJX launching, you saw some of those destructive environments around getting blown up. Hasn't really had much of an impact at this point. Team Cruelty getting ever closer to the bomb site, and they will get the first kill of this match. They find one, then they find a second. Fatal, his name suggesting what he is as a player, and he gets a 4K to start off this match. Pyrox, the 5th kill, but my goodness, all of that happening from inside a blue, a part of the map that is usually so intently watched. That was a bit of a blind spot for OXG. Team Cruelty goes up 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, it was being watched initially by Auction, but that opening pick from Fatal being able to work that blue control in as they were pressuring in through Oil Pit, they were pressuring in through the secret stairs. A lot of other angles to that push that maybe didn't get the same results. There was players pushing dirt, there were players dropping the kitchen hatch, there were players on the main stairs, but it's Fatal who steps up big time, capitalizes off the fact that not a lot of eyes were looking his direction, and he hits the shots he needs to. Another one of those guys who technically a rookie. He's somewhat new to this team. Obviously has not played in the North American region with the other American and Canadian teams, but plenty of experience. Another guy that's been playing Siege since he was 12 years old. Got that PC right before he turned 18. Immediately won the Mexico SI qual after he turned 18 in 2022. Didn't go to SI because then he had to play against the Brazilians, but went pro in Mexico shortly after that. And of course, he's been playing down there for quite a while. So nice to see Fatal showing his stuff on the big stage.
We didn't really get much time to talk about this in our previous match, which was Shopify Rebellion versus Envy. If you're just tuning in for this one, I'd highly recommend you go back and rewatch the match that preceded this bout. There are some shakes for some of the less experienced players and less experienced teams. You know, a team like Shopify Rebellion's got 5 guys who've been around for so long. You don't really think there are nerves or any of that stuff that falls on your shoulders. But when Envy pushed to overtime and we ended up going into OT, there's going to be some performance anxiety on a team that is now playing at the top level, that doesn't have a ton of experience against top level teams in official matches because they've probably scrimmed them before. And that's going to impact things. I mean, even a small bit of shakes for somebody who's mechanically gifted means the difference between winning a 50-50, which can then snowball into winning a round. Cruelty likely experiences that too. While they've played the best of the best in Latin America, their knowledge of Tier 1 NA is not particularly strong. And you can see that there were moments in their first matchup yesterday against Space Station where there were some shakes. Ivan will be on the bench for this round as he got picked off pretty early on by Adam, who went for yet another spawn peek. And this one pays off.
Yeah, some early fights coming here around Master. Another pick goes the way of OXG. 5v3 now. Grixer in a rat spot behind the bedroom. Do they know he's there, though? He's got Adam holding a crossfire from inside of Logi. Grixer does get another kill. Finally, something traded off on the side of Cruelty, but this push through Master has been a complete disaster, Parker. Grixer even gets away, despite the fact that he should have been playing a death spot. Map control gained if you're Cruelty. You know, they have full con control. That's nice. And I mean, Fatal's up 5-0 at the moment, but this still feels really, really rough.
Yeah, this one kind of fell apart. It's a stark contrast to what we saw from the previous round where Fatal saw an opportunity, took advantage of it, got 4 kills. Now it's OXG feasting on Cruelty. We're gonna see a cluster charge go down right before one of those can openers go. Matumbo and Fatal now stacked up inside of construction. Yaga takes down Fatal and they know exactly where the Blackbeard is. He's making an awful racket on that doorway. Staring over towards the typical rotate that we see on red, OXG wants to give these engagements, by the way. They're not really paying respect to Cruelty the way that they could. It's very easy to just sit and establish a crossfire and make Mutombo come to you, but instead we get an ego peek. See another now as it's a slow peek from Mutombo onto Forest for a double kill. Still 2 more bodies to be found. Winnable for Cruelty based on the clock, but OXG just need to play keep away. I'm sure they're aware that there's no diffuser control for Cruelty, which means Mutombo needs to come to them. Trying to get some distractions now as he marches his way down, and he had an opportunity to take out Yaga, but he misses by just a couple centimeters. And OXG answers back. It's a tie game between these two.
OXG actually had no idea that Mutombo wasn't holding the defuse kit because it was dropped on the roof by Skimzy about a minute and a bit into that round. Nobody actually died holding the defuse kit. Skimzy, I think, left it up top because he knew he was going to move to an aggressive position that was dropping down and fighting players, I believe, on the con window, but ended up eating a nitro cell. Nobody ever really decided to go pick up that defuse kit again. And again, I think in a 2v4, it doesn't matter too much whether you go to pick up that defuse kit or not. You're still in a very unlikely round, but still something to keep in mind for Cruelty. If they can prevent that from happening in the future, that'd obviously be nice. Early round really just fell apart from them there, and then ideally in the 2v4, you've got a Fuse, you've got a Blackbeard. You know, maybe you can make something happen by making the Blackbeard entry and then Fuse following up. But the Fuse died first, and Blackbeard alone in a 1vx, never really going to feel good about it. So, yeah, way it goes sometimes for Team Cruelty, and hopefully they can get that out of their minds ASAP.
I mean, Cruelty is also attacking on Clubhouse. The fact that they were able to win the first round is, frankly, quite surprising. As you will hear us say many, many times, Clubhouse is usually a fortress for defenders, but we have seen some movement on some of these bomb sites. Typically, we only see 3 of those sites get played. Bar and Stage is not often showing up in most teams' repertoire. Which is funny because before the rework of Clubhouse, that bar/stage or bar double bar or whatever it was officially called used to be the second best bomb site. Now it's the downstairs bomb site followed by the 2 up top. And there's lots of flexibility here, whether Amira is banned out, whether Electrification is banned out, whether there's a Kaid or a Bandit available. As you can see, Cruelty did get rid of the Kaid. Lots of ways for the defenders to sit nice and pretty.
This is about to be a rush. Here comes now Amaru, just jumped on into the red stairs. Adam and Forrest both get a pick, so it's a 5-on-3. The Candelas have come in through Logi as well, but I don't think they've really amounted to much. Another pick from Gomez. Mutombo at least trades, but it's only one for their troubles. Parker, Fatal left all alone in a 1v3 outside the windows. This play, they were hoping to do something cheeky like they did in round number 1, but unfortunately just wasn't able to line up. Jumping in, nice pick from Fatal. I mean, a 1v2, this is not unwinnable.
No, very similar to what we saw out of Mutombo on the Blackbeard last round. Fatal has an opportunity, 7-1, so quite a tally to his name through 2 active rounds. He's got Grixer and Adam as the last 2 lines of defense for OXG, but they'll be deeply entrenched and showing more patience than Mutombo was given in the previous round, which is good for OXG. Some of these teams that don't take their opponents too seriously will decide to get maybe a little too eager, and that eagerness can bite you. Thing is that Fatal's making an awful lot of noise on his way to the bomb site, and the 2 remaining players of OXG are just posted up, waiting patiently. I think it was Adam who technically got the kill, or at least was credited on the kill feed right before we swapped to the player cams, but either way, him and Grixer had that one on lock. And it was a rush, Jesse. It was a rush for OXG fans seeing Team Cruelty get slaughtered when they jumped into the building.
Yeah, you could say that for sure. Awkward push from Team Cruelty. They just didn't start strong, and when those kind of rushes don't go your way, you know, that's where things really get hard to recover. And Azami and a Maverick get banned out next. Interesting that they don't remove the Blackbeard. I thought maybe they'd go all in on the shields, given they didn't ban any other hard breachers, but with Maverick off the board, that's going to make things kind of awkward, especially if they get a Kaid involved to try to keep some of these hatches closed. Not that we'll see it. And then Azami, just one of the most powerful operators in the game. Again, a little surprised there's no Bandit being removed. Kaid's banned, what am I saying? Still surprised we didn't see that Bandit removed in that second phase, but I mean, Azami always going to be a target for attacking teams.
From all you've watched up to this point, what's your takeaway on the way that the ban phase has been swapped around? Has it changed? When you first heard of the changes that were happening with the operator bans, were you in favor? Were you opposed? Has your mind been changed since?
Yeah, I think my mind has been changed. You know, when they first came out, I was a little skeptical. I wasn't 100% sure on the idea of banning an operator, but then it doesn't apply to you. I was worried it might just become, okay, always ban the strongest op, which wasn't always the case before. But being able to ban two different operators makes a big difference, you know? And I think the creativity it has enabled has been really fun to watch at a pro level. And I think, you know, even if the system has some quirks, just changing things up for the sake of changing things up allows teams to be a lot more creative, which ultimately is the most fun thing to watch in Siege.
It was talked about yesterday in one of our casts where that creativity that comes from different regions meshing is not just something that's enjoyable to watch, but it makes everybody better. There's no doubt that Cruelty competing against Tier 1 NA teams will allow them to be more proficient than if they had stayed competing against teams in Mexico and in Latin America, but at the same time, there's only so much you can learn if the skill disparity is so great. I mean, I could play 40 games against Michael Jordan, and I can guarantee you my improvement would probably not be very much. So, I guess in this case, OXG is Michael Jordan and Team Cruelty is me, and that's honestly quite an insult to Team Cruelty, and I apologize, but you know.
I mean, I would be surprised if Jordan beat you at all in Siege, given I don't think he's really played it. So you definitely wouldn't be
I was talking about basketball. I wasn't talking about rainbows. I don't think Michael Jordan's suiting up in the server.
Oh.
I think MJ's got, yeah. Oh, following analogies is hard. Why don't you stick to your Edmonton Oilers?
Great game last night.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Gomez is completely undroned over by Strip. I don't believe they have any idea that he's there. Now, they know that they haven't cleared it, and Ivan's getting a drone around there now, so they still... no, okay. They don't go all in on droning Strip. This is going to be something that catches them off guard. If Gomez times this right, he could be a massive problem and completely ruin the round. If he doesn't time things correctly, then, you know, he could end up just baiting his teammates, and this could end up being a 4v3 execute from Cruelty, which would be nice, given how much util is still in the site. But here comes Gomez, not wasting too much time.
I mean, again, this is a big map. If it takes you about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes to drone it all out and there's no roamers, then it's going to take even longer if there's somebody on the flank, which is exactly what Gomez is doing. He's taking his sweet time, though. First kill on the side of Cruelty now, or rather, first kill from Yaga on the side of Cruelty. Another will join now as Ivan dies. It's all Matumbo. Last one left. Gomez might not even be able to wander his way into the bomb site before this round is over. A nice toy from Forest around the corner to secure Pyrox, and Forest will get them both. OXG wins yet another round, finally cracking the egg that is that downstairs bomb site that failed them before.
Well, it was kind of a bait from Grixer. He didn't have the timing he was looking for. By the time he showed up, everybody was in the bomb site. But thankfully, the 3v4 hold was pretty favorable for OXG. Some good rounds, some good picks from Yaga, of course, and then Forrest cleaning up the last two. The biggest difficulty in pushing that, of course, comes from all the utility that they still had to deal with when they were pushing in. There was going to be toxic babes in these last 30 seconds. There were Goyo canisters still being popped off. Even some of the destructible map environments that have been added since Siege X launched played a bit of a factor in terms of just slowing things down for Cruelty, adding another thing they've got to worry about before and during that execute. So that basement site, it can be a real tricky one to close out. In the 4v3 push with Grixer not really being relevant, still wasn't going to be possible for Cruelty to make that happen. So tough one. 3-1 start. Sometimes it's not the worst to go down 3-1 attack on Clubhouse. You mentioned it's defender-sided, but the way they've been losing these rounds, they haven't really had a good look yet other than the one round that they won.
Yeah, I mean, but again, after round number 1, I said, it's attacking on Clubhouse. For those that are unfamiliar with this map and the way it works, Clubhouse has historically been one of the most favorable maps to the defenders. Almost every map, if not every map over the last 8 months, has skewed in favor of the defenders, sometimes by a couple percentage points, sometimes by much larger. I think there were a couple maps that were like 62% of all rounds won by the defenders, 38% of the rounds won by attackers, which usually leads to a 4-2 scoreline. We're just about there. With the way that this is trending so far, this round should go to Cruelty, Oxygen should win the next round, and then that'll be the first half, which is par for the course, right? The question will be, how comfortable do Cruelty look when they're the defenders? Because the map will be working with them. But outside of some really good plays by Fatal on entry, most of which came in that very first round, the rest of Cruelty's kills have been impactless. Obviously, as attackers, impactful kills are hard to come by. But as defenders, if you're not getting impactful kills, that's the ball game because Oxygen will have run up the score at that point. Presumably, of course.
What a move from Gomez. He wants to get into a gunfight, knows exactly where he's being pressured from, but a little bit nervous on the side of Team Cruelty. They haven't been able to lock him down. Instead, it's his teammate that's the opening death as Gomez retreats down through the oil pit. Man advantage just by 1 as Team Cruelty clear out that main floor. Now catching Gomez on a drone. He's not out of the woods yet. Could go for a rotate all the way back through the main stairs if he so chooses, but he'll waste a lot of the time off of his clock. And of course, it is a bit predictable too. He will opt for the main stairs rotate back. So returns to site with his life. 4v5, not punished on the return. This is a different look from Cruelty. Previously, they went all in for the master side. They weren't able to make much happen from over there. So now they're switching things up. They pressured over towards Garage. They pressured in towards Secret. Their next objective will be to clear Forest out of these rafters, but they've only got 1 firebolt left on the side of Matumbo.
Starred for utility, it'll mean a much tougher job of clearing out rafters. OXG quite well spread out, and while they're down in numbers, they've still got a pocket full of tricks themselves, just waiting patiently. Good stall potential that can be had from Grixer with the smoke having those toxic canisters, and Nitro Cell as well in pocket for both Forest and for Yaga, so plenty of ways to shut down the plant. Just got to keep an eye on Pyrox down below, because he's going to continue to take away some of that safety until Grixer kills him. So excellently done. Then a Zoto canister from Forest, the very last one, will keep that main breach into the B bomb site safe for the time being. Not fearing that buck down below allows you to retake too, and you can play Raptors with a bit more impunity. Forest tossing out the Nitro Cell, doing double duty, keeping the wall intact, killing a player from Cruelty, and that'll force all of them to reposition with 10 seconds left, and OXG will gladly take them. Yaga slamming the door on a potential comeback as he greets the ascent on red stairs by kicking them back down, and that's the 4th round on defense for OXG, right where they need to be. This round, if you're Cruelty, is a must win, because if you don't win it, a 5-1 half, that's a tricky situation to find yourself in, even if you are in a more favorable spot as defenders for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, and again, it just comes back to, like, since round 1, these pushes haven't looked close, you know? Like, that's the difference. Yeah, Clubhouse, you expect it to lean defenders, but generally you want to see the attackers finding good entries or having a moment or maybe getting some good coordination. Haven't seen a lot from that from Cruelty. That last round, they got the opening pick, probably the best start to the round they've had in quite a few rounds, but at the end, did it matter when they were never able to take control of Rafters? They weren't able to pin down Grixer down in the basement, so he was able to return to site and then work a pick before he ended up, before the round ended up ending. It just feels like every opportunity that Cruelty had to make a move, even after they got that first pick, wasn't being capitalized on. They weren't able to take the space that they needed in that round. It's just moves from Auction that continue to catch them off guard, so... Yeah, I don't know. The last time they went to this top floor, gym bedroom bomb site, Parker, they went for that rush. They're not going to try that again. I think very wisely so. It went very poorly for them. So it'll be a bit of a new look. It'll be the first quote-unquote real push we get from Cruelty on this gym and bedroom bomb site. But my thoughts here are, like, if they weren't confident enough to start with it, how strong of a push is this going to end up being?
A good question. You talked about observation blockers being a poor secondary gadget, and yet that's what most Jaegers seem to bring. If you've assessed that there are problems, great, thank you, Skimsy.
That's wise.
If you assess that there are problems with information, which it seems like Cruelty is really struggling on the intel front here, and observation blockers are only going to exacerbate that problem, especially if there's a mute on the board, which, well, would you look at Forest's operator? So this is the mixing and the making of a very challenging assault for Cruelty. They've cut through a minute so far, still on Discovery, primarily trying to deal with red stairs and expanding outwards from Catwalk. They've assembled their forces up in that position, and now they've got a buck down below for the 2nd round in a row, this time piloted by Ivan, not Pyrox.
Yeah, I mean, they've taken almost half the round, still just looking at this cash extension. They need to walk away with a man advantage. They've already wasted a lot of their time here. If they get some picks and they don't lose so many bodies, it's okay. But if things even out, or if, God forbid, Oxygen ends this with a man advantage, Cruelty will have no positioning and no players.
Yeah, I mean, our speculation was that Cruelty would pick up a second round here, but with that very first pick on Matumbo, it's going to leave an awful lot on the shoulders of Fatal. There's been so much for us to discuss that we haven't been able to really dive into the kill front, and I don't really know what Pyrox was attempting to do there, but again, he probably didn't know that Yaga was in that position. You have ADSs in front, you've got the observation blockers, Yaga could get a second. This is the same spot he was in before, Jesse, in just the previous round. Fatal shuts him down, but there are still 4 other players on OXG to cut through. 1 minute to go for Team Cruelty as they want to delicately approach this gym master bomb site.
No drones in their pockets as well. Might have some around the map, but they're going to double up inside of Logi. They have no clue where Forest is. They've got to predict this, but it's not easy.
This is Forest on the ground with an SMG. He can tear through both of them. He completely misses. Good news for OXG. They've got Gomez there for insurance, and Gomez will trade out. He dies, but at that point, there was still 2 other players on OXG still alive. Excellently done by OXG on that first half, and Team Cruelty only able to muster a single round. They will now go to the favorable side of Clubhouse as the operator bans reset. Cruelty needs to do something in this immediate round, Jesse, or else I fear it's over.
Yeah, their attack's not doing enough for them in that last round. Yaga did a great job showing us the recent buff to Jaeger, by the way. If you weren't watching the Reload tournament, he should have been cleared out of top red by the Capitao, but he had ADSs, which now, since the buff, eat up those Capitao Firebolts, which I'm sure Cruelty were aware of, but unfortunately didn't clock the placement of those ADSs, which allowed Yaga to get that huge 2K, which kind of won the round for OXG. As far as operator bans go, kind of rare to see the Ying taken off the board in Clubhouse. Not that a Ying ban is bad necessarily, but you leave up all the hard breachers. You only took away 1 shield inside of Team Cruelty, so there's a lot of tools still left on the board for Auction to try to abuse. Again, Kaid, I believe 100% ban rate through Reload and the NAL so far on Clubhouse, so no surprise to see him taken off the board. And then Mira, not a common ban, but not unheard of as well on Club. You do see that from time to time from teams if they don't choose to remove the Kaid Bandit combo. So standard stuff from OXG. A little surprised by the Ying ban from Cruelty, but we'll see if Auction can abuse some of those shields. Force and Yaga look to do so if they don't repick off. And one might still here, but options will remain for the rest of this third quarter.
I was really impressed with the way that OXG handled the top of red in that previous round, and they were very, very quick to assess that Cruelty's drone work has been lacking through most of this series. I mean, even in the very first round, wasn't necessarily droning. They got a good vantage point as to what Blue and Church looked like in that very first round. If you remember when Fatal got the 4K from inside of Blue. But again, I mean, there was very minimal droning. It was mostly them just waiting for somebody on OXG to commit a mistake. They didn't get it. They pushed through the one spot that was open. It was adeptly handled by Cruelty. It's really the only good look that they've had through this match. I hate to say it again, but expectations setting with this Cruelty roster is that they were on the harder side. They're playing more patient than what we saw when they were going up against Space Station yesterday on Cafe. They tried to return fire as Space Station had done to them early in the match by spawn peeking and getting very aggressive with SSG. Cruelty's not doing that against OXG this time. This is a very standard style of defense. They're spread out. They brought a ton of utility. They've got great stall potential. They have gunners that can work in the early round. They've got great late round operators in both the Clash and the Smoke if absolutely required. And then the stall that comes from the Goyo canisters will help as well. Obviously, just because you have these tools at your disposal does not mean that the tools are going to work well. But at least Cruelty has an idea of what to do, and we'll see if they're successful in executing it. They'll be down in Azami as they lose Ivan, who's had a pretty rough run of it. 1 in 6 on an operator who gets stronger the longer you go into a round is pretty devastating, and they'll have to fight one behind.
Curious if Oxygen are ever really going to engage with this cash extension. I don't think they are. They got to work 1 pick freebie through the con single wall, so happy with that. Now they're going to rotate their focus over towards Jacuzzi, which has already been opened up. They're going to have players in the Logi hatch. They're going to have players potentially on the site windows as well. But of course, the danger with that, if you don't control cash, is you could get swung. Big pickup from Matumbo. With Gomez going down, I believe that's the fuse kit, dropped to the floor. That's going to waste a lot of good time in favor of Cruelty.
That's a lot of bullets for one drone. And I mean, even just something small like that kind of gives us a window into where their head is at, if there's any shakes or if there's any concerns, etc. It's quite the stack up now on Jacuzzi Wall. 3 players from OXG in this spot, and Matumbo continues to just rain hellfire down upon OXG as Gomez and Adam are punished from the same spot. The Vector is a lot of things, but it has a tremendously high rate of fire and can easily shred an unsuspecting opponent. Forrest is now in a collision course, as there goes a vault in from Yaga. The same droning and intel issues that seem to plague Cruelty are now plaguing OXG, and Cruelty immediately wins their first round as defenders. That was not technically a must win, but spiritually I see it as a much win, and they can get some momentum here, keep their head in the game, and move forward. OXG will now likely run up against the same problems that Cruelty and many other teams have when attacking on Clubhouse.
I don't mind the decision to not go directly for a cache clear, right? A lot of teams have gone direct through Jacuzzi, Logi, and had a successful push with it. But once they saw that clash that was sitting inside a bath, Skimzy, they never really had a good answer to it, you know, and they kind of just allowed Matumbo to work a couple different picks. Adam jumping in that breach there exemplifies what I'm talking about. I mean, you are just not going to be favored jumping into a vault, zapped by a clash, and the other guy on the other side of things knows exactly what your game plan is. Yeah, they got some flash utility, but it's just not going to be enough. Good stuff from Matumbo, of course, one of the longest standing members of Team Cruelty. You're going to shut that push down. And then, you know, the recovery was never really a realistic option from Auction on the cash side. So that clash might be a problem as they continue on through this game. I would expect it to be a target for OXG's ban after round number 9. But until then, for the next 2 rounds, it's going to be something in their minds. Not broad for this basement defense, but certainly something they'll be worried about and potentially on the board for round 9.
The nuisance operators from OXG, I just know that if you're in a ranked game and you see this coming at you, you're not going to have a very fun time. Try to flank. Oh, there's a Nomad on the board. Do a lot of damage. Oh, there's a Fink on the board. Oh, you want to deal with a Blackbeard or a Monty? Have a great time. Hibana's just along for the ride. Basically just because you need somebody to open things up.
Yeah.
So, but again, just as we saw from Cruelty in the previous round, now we can say the same about OXG. Just because you've got the tools doesn't mean you know how to use them. And OXG are a team full of experienced players, but again, they're going to be running uphill as they have to attack on a Clubhouse that is unfriendly. They'll start by approaching Dirt Tunnel, and Cruelty's going to buy some time as they have the smoke of Fatal, get out of that escape tunnel while one of those Goyo canisters goes off. And that's 20 seconds now where OXG will have to pause.
This operator lineup from Auction really tells what they've read into this game. Look at the defense lineup from Cruelty, right? They had a Scopos on the top floor. They had a Mozzie on the top floor. They committed a lot to playing on the roam game. Auction said, we don't need to engage with the roam game. We're gonna go direct to site. We don't care about any of the roamers. Gonna go in through dirt, bring 2 shields, bring a Finka, all operators that thrive in a direct site hit style of strategy. So Auction, I think, read this defense well. Cruelty counter read it well and returned back to site. So it's going to be a 5v5 clash on site as soon as OXG pulled the trigger. But I think good awareness from Auction to recognize what style of hold was going on from Cruelty and respond appropriately with their operators. Now, as I say this, they might actually have recognized that everybody rotated back and now will be taking advantage of the fact that there are no players up on this top floor. So a bit of mind games going back and forth. I don't think clearing top was the initial plan from Auction, but after the retreat, this is what they've decided to go for.
They gain information from the Scobos upstairs. Ivan, while not necessarily racking up the kills, is now going to prove invaluable for a short window of time. When you drone something out or you get intel on a cam, usually that info is only good for the next couple seconds. So if you've got somebody who might want to go for a flank, you have to act quickly. But again, OXG is clearing areas where there is nobody right now, and they're effectively fighting shadows. They've got a good read on the heel of the Mozzie, but right now the lineup to take him down has escaped Grixer, and Skimzy will be able to back away from that, out of harm's way for the time being. Forrest could potentially go for the kill, but he's got to worry about 2 overbuy dummies. as there goes one of those gas canisters. For the moment, slowing them down. Another gas canister will go out. Fatal has expended all 3, and Mutombo will get kill number 1. Pyrox also on the board. The smoke dropped, knocked over as Yaga and Adam equalize numbers. And a brawl inside of the site, where at the moment, Cruelty is coming out ahead. It was all up to Forrest, but Ivan will get the final kill. And that's yet another for the Mexican team, as OXG is seeing the same struggles in real time that Cruelty dealt with. And OXG isn't faring any better.
Again, that round kind of comes back to like what Auction wanted to do. They spent the early part of that round focused around blue, opening the kitchen hatch, going towards dirt. They did not want to clear the top 2 floors. But then Cruelty brought everybody back. Cruelty realized what was going on. And so all of a sudden, OXG looked at the board. They said, running into sight with 1:30 on the clock doesn't feel so good. We actually are going to go top floor. We're going to change our minds. We're going to try to take full map control. But the problem is they didn't bring the tools for that. They didn't have any soft breach on that attacking lineup, which meant that they didn't gain a whole lot by taking that full control of the top floor. Made their push a little bit awkward when they ended up going for it. They still had a player that went towards dirt that was read very easily by Team Cruelty. That blue push still didn't end up really going their way. So just didn't feel like OXG knew what they wanted to do through that round. They changed their minds a lot. And, you know, sometimes that does kind of come down to the IGL. I believe it's still Gomez on this squad who's calling for the team and making those decisions. Kind of a newer IGL, still from OXG, was the captain of this team for a bit at the end of last year as well, but maybe still finding his footing in terms of deciding what they want to do, especially when commanding 3 new players.
Yeah, I really don't I don't envy either of these teams, and if we do go to overtime, which is likely at this point, I mean a 5-1 half on one side and a 5-1 half on the other is what it seems we are hurtling towards. I mean, God help whichever team has to attack twice.
Well, Cruelty chose to attack first in the map veto. I do recall that. So it probably will be, it would have been Auction's choice in overtime. So I assume they would have chosen defense. I can actually check. Yeah, they did. So it'll be Cruelty who attacked twice in overtime if we head there.
Or Cruelty.
Yeah, it's tough. Again, though,
Cool that is.
Odd that they chose to start on the attack given how defender-sided club tends to be and how their attacks go. Some teams do just like starting on attack, even if it's not favorable. They think it gets them kind of into the game more so than if they start on defense. I know Liquid have had that mentality in the past. G2 have said that in the past. So there is some logic to it. Not all teams always want to start on the strong side.
Yeah. And to your point, I was going to say, you know, I think Liquid has actually been on the record to say that before, where they will say openly, like, we want to get the worst out of the way so that we can, you know, recover. And if we start off strong, you know, then we get the better side in the second half. I mean, I don't mean to say this in a mocking tone, but all you need to do is look at Liquid's results over the last 3 years and realize that maybe this is not a winning strategy, but I don't necessarily think that's the only problem afflicting this Liquid core that just seems to always get so close and then just ultimately not make it all the way. But other teams may be able to pull it off. They were just one example that popped to mind.
Yeah. Cruelty following in their footsteps a little bit. Now on defense, they brought the Clash back. This was a real problem for Oxygen in round number 7, so it makes its return as we head back to the top floor. Skimzy boldly taking that stance up towards the breach. Has yet to put it down, but this would be a powerful position if he wants to place it down, try to go for a bit of a swing. There isn't really a lot of util on the defensive side that could deal with it. There might be a Gone 6 hiding somewhere in there, and of course there are air jabs if you can get something behind them, but broadly you won't find it. I like this play from Yaga. Smoking in to try to clear out the Rafters play. This is a strat that we saw develop a little while ago, I believe, the 6 Invitational. Seems Cruelty are wise to it, though.
Mutombo now under watch as they're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink at him at this point. Knocked over, hunted down by the Lion. Grenades go in. Finally, Yaga gets his man. And with 1 minute left, they have burned an awful lot of time on the side of Cruelty, but how quickly a team can take control of Rafters and move over towards a bomb site, well, I think they'd be a bit more comfortable if there was 30 seconds left on the clock. Immediately, Skimzy to take up position over by Garage, but now thinks otherwise of it and will look over towards Secret Window as he needs to do double duty, because you cannot give Garage away for free. Adam is scouting it out to gain information. As the Clash is still there, that's an impediment that OXG will have to overcome in the final 30 seconds.
The Clash running back over towards the site. Man disadvantage from Cruelty, but I don't hate their positioning. With that Nomad being able to take control of the rafters, if they can use that on Oxygen, they'll have an advantage, but I don't, at the moment, see anybody that way.
There's some gunfire being thrown out behind the shield. Team Cruelty licking their chops. They lost Matumbo, but they are cleaning up after that, and Fatal is feasting on this OXG team. A great shot from Gomez, but he's a mile away from the bomb site with no case and only a couple seconds left. Timeout for OXG did not pay off the way they wanted, and now Cruelty is 1 round away from tying this up. A single round won by the attackers, and it was Cruelty all the way back in round number 1. Since then, 9 consecutive rounds won by the defenders. And if you're a fan of Team Cruelty, you are overjoyed to hear that statistic, as they will sit as defenders unless, for the remainder of the game, unless we go to overtime. Both Clash and Monty taken out. That does not surprise me in the slightest, Jesse. Shields are still quite strong, and they tend to be a focal point for these teams in the bans.
I would have bet my house on a Clash ban after how that third quarter went for OXG. Love this replay, by the way. Shout out to our replay operator. That air jab combined with the Glaz combination to clear out rafters is something that's developed in the meta over the last 6 months or so. Our wonderful analyst, Foxay, had a clip on Twitter back a little while back where he was the receiver of that strategy. You spam air jabs at the guy playing in rafters, you spam smokes, you hit him with the Glaz, there's no way for him to fight back. You've got to try to shoot those air jabs. It is toxic to play against. So I liked seeing that come out from OXG. Didn't matter though. Again, I mean, you can have a really brilliant strategy to deal with the most powerful position on the entire map, but when you're going up against a Clash, I don't think it matters. You got to wonder where OXG would be in this game if they just banned Clash in the first phase, but regardless, the past is the past. And they don't have to worry about Clash anymore. Team Cruelty largely won these top 2 floor bomb sites off of the Clash. Since that is no longer going to be available for Skimzy, what will their answer be? They've been bouncing back nicely, Parker. I'm not going to take that away from them, but without the Clash, I don't know if it's going to happen again.
I mean, Clash was a huge focal point for that garage take, and I mean, it can slow you down. She's seen quite a rework, because if this is the very first match you're watching, you might be a little bit surprised as to what Clash is. I remember the first time I saw the rework and she put down her shield, my jaw just about dropped on the floor. But yeah, I mean, she's another great nuisance op and no longer available. So OXG picking very wisely. I don't know if just a single operator is enough to overcome the fact that this is such a defender-sided clubhouse, but we'll see. They also did take a timeout, so if there's anything they discussed that wasn't immediately actionable in that first round post timeout, now they have another opportunity to put it into action.
Actual engagement with the cache extension this time from OXG, so a different look on the gym bedroom bomb site. No Buck to go down below. Instead, Adam will try it on the Deimos to try to work one of these picks. Again, if you're spending a lot of time on the cache clear, which OXG are, you want to walk away with a man advantage. They've just wasted, looks like, a minute 20 off the clock. They've used 2 Selma charges at the very least to try to get into this, and also an exothermic charge. They had Adam go down below. They walk away with nothing for it. Now, they didn't waste an insane amount of time. They still have a minute 30 to make this push work, and they will be rewarded with, of course, control of cache and construction as they walk in towards this way. Some safety if they want to play the site windows as well. But a pick on that cache clear can go a long way for an attacking team. So without that, with there still being 5 bodies on the site for Team Cruelty, watch out for OXG. This might be more than they can handle on this execute. They really need to take advantage of all the angles they have, because they will be able to push from any position that they want to.
Do not want to get caught stalling out, especially after they expended so much utility, as you spoke about earlier. There's still some tricks up their sleeve. They've got nades, they've got flashes, there's still some hard destruction if absolutely required. And then you've got both Deimos and Grim effectively at full utility. Grixer started to use his, but Adam, with 33 seconds left, still has all 3 of those death marks, so they can very easily isolate these players and gain some valuable intel. Maybe not if Adam gets immediately swung, playing off the information from the bees of Grixer. Gomez eliminating 1 and 2, very quickly keeping this one in a favorable way for OXG. They sit just seconds away from match point, and they'll flawlessly get there. My, we have not seen many clean rounds on Clubhouse so far in this match, but that one, it was tough at the beginning. They wasted an awful lot of time and effort to get here, but they cleaned up when it mattered the most, and OXG now 1 round away from a victory.
That's a really tough round from Fatal. I mean, he's played so well all day long. He's got a ridiculous stat total at the moment. He's been hitting double digits for Team Cruelty, and he was feeling himself as he swung into construction. He thought he'd have an angle on somebody over towards Logi, but he ended up just feeding the most important kill right here over towards Gomez, who followed it up immediately with a second, and that started the dominoes that just fell one by one for Team Cruelty. They all fell apart after that moment. They had a bit of a man advantage, right? With the downed player, they had good positioning. They still had everyone inside of the site. Potential for a flank, I should say, as someone was still downstairs below to maybe come for a late round push as well. Felt like Team Cruelty had that round in their grasp, but some over-aggression that fed into OXG and perfectly capitalized by Gomez shut that down. Now Team Cruelty will have to win back-to-back rounds in order to stay alive and force an overtime. The second, it would be, of the NAL.
It's crazy that would happen on the same day, especially when we looked at the matchups for today, and we're a bit concerned that some of them would have been less competitive. I think if you do look at the overall ebb and flow of the NA League moving forward, we get much tighter matchups. Of the 5 games that we had today, this is the one that I suspected would be the closest, and that was if both teams showed up. You look at the rest, and well, based on the pedigree of some of these teams, recent play, whether it be at Reload or in the previous NA League stage, the upcoming matches that we will close out the show with, the other 3 that are to come. Next up, we'll have DZ versus Orglis, and then beyond. I don't need to say every single team, but I think we will have less opportunities for us to go to overtime, if I can use my politest phrasing.
No, I do agree. This is going to be one of those holds where, again, Cruelty don't hold too much up above. Technically, they have Ivan playing secret stairs, and Pyrox will be playing these main stairs. Lots of util from Pyrox in particular, of course. Playing on the Warden will have as well these Goyo canisters, ADSs from Matumbo. It's going to be tough to ward him out of the spot. One of those power positions, of course, with the pipe as well. One of those new destructible environments. A second one up top, too, that he might be able to find an angle on. OXG are wise to this, though, and they've got a brilliant angle with the buck.
Do some serious damage there, or at least tried to, on a Pyrox, who's got the flames all around him, and he'll head for the hills. Now back downstairs towards the bomb chassis as more work is being done on the main floor by OXG to put these Cruelty players in an uncomfortable spot. Reposition from Forrest as he was hoping to use one of those cluster charges on the hatch, but the hatch is already gone, so now he'll just have to drop it inside of Kitchen, and the other will likely go on here to clean out any debris. No, he's just going to open things up with the can opener instead. There is a dedicated hard breacher on the OXG lineup, and then 2 can openers in the pocket of both Forrest and Gomez, now reduced to just 1. This is tons of hard destruction. And I mean, this is the one bomb site where if you're going to go all out on hard breach, you might as well bring some spares just in case, especially with how some of those early contact has gone. Exothermic, or rather, sorry, cluster charge going off in the hallway, and now it's going to be a death drop through the hatch to the B bomb chassis. Maybe not. Adam taking care of Fatal, and now they'll go right back up to that same spot as a flank comes in. Ivan has been racking up some kills on defense. He'll go for a long run over towards the kitchen and might actually catch them with their pants down. Ivan eliminating Adam and turning around. Gomez has the trade. 10 seconds left. Forrest getting diffuser down as OXG is cleaning them all up. And Matumbo, with 9 kills to his name, will have to escape from Dirt Tunnel, while eyes from OXG will be on him, taking some damage, and the crossfire hits from all sides. OXG had a listless start to the second half, but they found a new gear towards the tail end of it, and they win 2 rounds in a row to secure a regulation victory over Team Cruelty.
100% win rate when Clash was being played for Cruelty on that defensive half, by the way. 0% win rate without the Clash. I think it says something when you look at those statistics. But in any case, OXG, the better team today. That first half of 5-1 dominance over Team Cruelty. They chose to start on attack in this game. Didn't seem like that choice paid off for them. Only a single round, and then only 2 more to bail them out when they had that clash. Tough one from TC.
Almost at the halfway point of our second day here of the North America League. Dark Zero and Orglis are up next, but before we get there, let's do the rundown of this match. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Dirt. He's in dirt, walked out. Nice, guys.
Yeah, I tried to call it up on the flank, but
Bro, how the fuck does this guy
Nice,
flank, bro?
guys. Let's
it's because
go.
I go Moto Hatch for execute.
I would have killed that main guy, but my gun didn't reload.
Welcome back to the NAL. OXG 7-4 against Cruelty. Some signs of life from Cruelty to kind of like not. I mean, signs of life is close to.
I mean, you know, to further exacerbate the issues that I've already known. I mean, there was one round in particular that truly stuck me. And we're talking about, you know, Clubhouse here. It's very basic. It was when they were attacking Cash when it was a gym master clear. They had the buck and they just didn't touch Cash at all and just ran up the red stairs. So again, there's still a lot of issues and cutting corners that Cruelty's doing.
Cruelty looks like they're in the right places to execute and do things, but it doesn't really look like the players know why they're in those positions. So
yeah,
I think if they just are able to get some more reps and fully understand why, when, you know, what their ability is supposed to be in those positions, like for example, utilizing that buck, not pushing in until the buck has been able to set up, that would make things a lot more fluid for Cruelty. And I'd say their little comeback was not really on the back of their shoulders, but more or less OXG just fumbling a little bit, but they were able to tighten up and close it out.
Yeah, and OXG as well, because of the performance, they get the black light detail. Specifically, it's going to be going to Yaga. I mean, looking at OXG, you know, at the end of the day, like we touched upon the fact that we wanted them to see them more synced. We wanted them to see like on the same page. We wanted them to like see in that flow state together. And I feel like to an extent we've seen glimpses of it, but it's not necessarily there yet.
No, it's not, but obviously, I mean, they had an opportunity to show big plays. Yogg and Grixer that we'll see in the video, like each individually were able to hold their own in these positions. And you may think, yes, it is very amazing, big individual play, but a lot of these plays were set up in the strategy to be able to find success. Of course, when you put good players in great situations, they will prevail. And that's exactly what Yogg and Grixer were able to provide in this series. But all the strategy was very good. It was great. They knew exactly what they were supposed to do in their situations. And when push came to shove and they were put in the hot seat and Cruelty was pushing on them, more often than not, they were able to come out on top. So obviously, good shout out to them. Great individual play, but the strategy is definitely hidden for OXG.
Yeah, and Grixer is also one of the players like that we just highlighted, but also ready for the interview, as you know, we do here now when people actually manage to get a win. So, Grixer, congratulations on closing this one out. Yesterday, maybe not necessarily like what you guys were looking for. Could you talk us through what the weeks leading up to the NAL have looked like for you and how it's been getting different players from different systems to gel together?
Yeah, I mean, leading up, you know, it's been a lot of practice, a lot of work, you know, because this isn't just one of those teams where like a player makes or it's like a one-player change, and you know, you keep kind of the same play style or just like kind of the same strategies, but you just like switch them up a bit and whatnot. It's like a team of 5 new players who have never played with each other. So there's a lot of foundation work to be set. There's a lot of strategy to have. I mean, you're pretty much starting from scratch. And I mean, the fact that there's like 9 maps in the map pool obviously makes it even like harder than back then, you know, how it was 7. But yeah, I mean, we've really put in a lot of work. You know, we started very early when like a lot of other teams weren't scrimming, just to try to get as much practice as we can. So there's been definitely like a lot of sacrifice from the players and the coaches. So I'm just, you know, thankful.
Amazing. Well, let's just talk about you personally a little bit. Obviously, a majority of your NAL career has been on Sonics, and you were never really in a position where you had to join a new system. And this is the first time where you are leaving, you're joining OXG, and not only is it a brand new system, but it's a brand new system to all of you guys. So what has that experience been like for you in the journey of going from that swap?
I mean, it's been great. You know, it's been It's been a lot of fun. You know, it's been exciting just to kind of be like around an environment. It definitely feels weird. You know, I was so surrounded by like the same team, the same environment for the last like for about like 4 years of my career. You know, but I think that new beginnings are always exciting. You know, I definitely think that it all comes down to like, I guess, what you're willing to like take away from it and what you're willing to like put into it. You know, because it's definitely easy to, I don't know, just kind of get complacent or just to kind of just like lack effort. But I think just being surrounded by like team, like a staff and players has just been amazing. You know, we've really established like a great environment, very positive. We have a lot of fun, and yeah.
Well, Greg, sir, I want to say, obviously, congratulations. You're on my fantasy team, and you're obviously playing like Jordan that I clearly see in the back. I mean, I want to know with you, obviously, a quick follow-up. What's been the biggest hurdle for you, specifically of obviously coming from that Sonic Shopify Rebellion roster now to this OXG, and kind of what you're bringing to the table that this roster just didn't have, and also in addition to?
I think the biggest hurdle, I mean, I'd probably just have to say just kind of like the mesh of just trying to get used to new players, you know, trying to get used to their habits, trying to get used to like how the team's fundamentals work, because every team, you know, has a different base of fundamentals. Every team has a different process of how they do things, whether it's like strat making and round or calling, and everybody just, their roles kind of, you know, kind of fit into one another. So I think with these guys, it honestly hasn't, the transition, I feel like we made it pretty easy in the sense where everybody kind of got used to one another and whatnot like pretty quick. So that's really good. And as far as like what I bring to the boys, I mean, I think my experience a lot. I think I'm one of the players on the team with like a lot of experience.
You can
and
say you think you're one of the best.
Yeah, and then as far as like in round, I do think I feel like I have a pretty big impact as far as just like calling just like little plays and little gaps that we have and whatnot. And I think a lot of that does come with experience. You know, you get to see a million kinds of rushes, a million kinds of rounds play out, and you kind of know, I guess, you know, what calls to make and whatnot. But yeah.
Well, dope. Again, congratulations.
Thank you so much for your time. We're going to let you go and enjoy the celebration. We'll see you again next week, so take care.
All right, thank you. Have a good day, guys.
Thanks. All right, you know, one of the best players?
I was just going to say, you know, it's always fun. I mean, you know, I played Grixer way back in the day. It's always just kind of cool to see, you know, when he first came in and where he's at now, just the shift in mentality as the players get older.
Where you're at now as you get older.
Exactly, you know, where the perspectives are and what changes. I mean, it's always fun to just watch the development of young players and then just see where they are now. And I mean, Grixer is a great, you know, resource for that.
Yeah, I remember when the NAL was just starting out and we would be across from them screaming. Like we always had like a little bit of a rivalry with them. And then to see him and also every single player in the league just develop as a player is it's a sight to see for sure. 10 years.
10 years.
10 years of Siege.
Sheesh.
CJX.
10 more of CJX, hopefully.
Yeah, you guys done reminiscing, talking about the future.
Yeah, I think we are.
Thank you so much, because we still have 3 more games coming your way today, and we're going to be coming up next with DZ against Orgless, 2 completely opposite sides of the coin here. So we'll be back after the break.